Now the basics of our map is done, so we're going to add in some details like deserts and snow. So we're going to start with the deserts. We are going to add a new layer above the land layer. So I'm going to click on layer 3, add a new layer, and I'm going to create a clipping mask by right-clicking on layer 10, waiting for that drop-down menu to show, and clicking Create Clipping Mask. So you see there's a little arrow next to the layer. I am going to take my brush tool, change my color to a nice sandy brown. I'm going to use CCB 991. There's going to be my new brown color, and enter. I'm going to go up to my brush, make sure that it's a nice soft one. 75 pixels seems to be a good size. I'm going to hit enter, and now I'm just going to start painting on some deserts in areas that I think might be a little bit dry here. So you can see that I'm making some brown spots in between my mountains. I'll do some over here, some down here. And I'm trying to avoid those areas where I made a mountain because it doesn't make sense to have a dry spot where there's mountains. So I'm just adding some desert areas here on my map. And I'm just kind of going over to make it a little bit more sandy towards the middle, let it fade a little bit. Now I'm going to add some snow. To add another layer above layer 10, right click again, create another clipping mask. And this time I'm going to take my brush tool and I'm going to move the opacity to 100%, and I'm going to change the color to pure white. So 6 Fs. And I'm going to take my brush tool, I'm going to paint pure white at the top here, as you can see. And obviously snow is really only going to occur the north and the south mostly. So I'm just painting most of the northern part of my land, and I'm going to use the eraser tool, and I'm going to make it ginormous. So this is 412 pixels. I'm going to use this large eraser tool with a soft brush to slowly recede my snow to make it a little bit more natural, a little more relaxed. And all I'm doing is just clicking the eraser a few times to slowly let that snow level recede, so it's not such a like straight hard line. So here I'm going to do a couple, keep it kind of off to the side, a couple more here, just to kind of let that slow fade towards the top of my continents. The next thing I'm going to do is add a background, a parchment background to my map to make it look a little bit older. So I found a picture from Google, so I would Google your picture first, save it first, and we're just going to open up whatever file we have chosen. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and wait for the pop-up window here. This is the paper that I found, grunge paper background. I'm going to open that. It's going to open in a new tab in Photoshop. So you can see here's my new grunge paper, here is my map, here are some failed attempts at my map that I just never closed. But from the grunge paper, we are going to use Command A to select the whole photo. We're going to copy it with Command C, and I'm going to open up my map and paste it with Command V. So it should cover my entire map. Now my layer is kind of in the middle here, and I definitely want it at the top, so I'm just going to grab layer 12 and put it all the way at the top of my layer. So you can see that when I moved that, all of the edits that I had below moved back down. So I'm just gonna move my layer back up here all the way to the top. Now my picture has just sort of fitted itself into my canvas, and I want it to fit perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command T, and what this is going to do is allow me to shrink this file until I can use the entirety of the paper file to fit onto my canvas. So you can see I'm just resizing it until it is small enough for me to see the entire thing. I'm going to go up to one of these moving squares here on the file until I see the arrows that indicate an arc. And I'm going to spin, since I have a vertical picture. I'm going to spin it until I have exactly 90 degrees. And I can now fit the entire photo directly on my canvas. So I'm going to match up my squares here and resize it until it perfectly fills my canvas. And so you can see that it automatically eliminates that extra little lip at the bottom. So now I want to change my blending mode. Now that I've resized this, I'm going to change my blending mode to multiply. And now you can see that it has added an aged effect to my map. Now it's a little bit harsh, so I want to reduce the opacity to make it a little bit gentler. So I'm going to reduce it to 50%, but it's still fairly orange. So I'm going to open the hue and saturation levels using the shortcut Command U. And I'm going to reduce my saturation to -60. And what that's going to do is it's going to reduce that orange hue that kind of is very strong on my parchment. The next thing that I might want to do is add labels to my land using the text tool. So the text tool is over here on the toolbar to the left, and when I click that text tool, it's just going to give me an option to do horizontal or vertical type. I'm going to choose horizontal, and now I have a cursor that looks like, you know, your text indicator. So when I have decided on a name for my land, I'm just going to click anywhere on the land because you can always move it around. I'm going to type in what I'm going to name it. So this is going to be Arcadia. If you want to change the text, like the font, you have tons and tons of Adobe fonts. I'm using a font called Tratatello, which works really well for these sort of fantasy maps. And the color that I'm using on the land is that's going to be a nice brown color, and that is 493F37, and so you can see it's a nice dark brown. I'm going to hit enter, and my text has changed to that color. For places on the water, I'm going to use a different color, and it's going to be, we'll call this the litmus C. I want to return. For water names, I want to use like a darker blue, so I'm going to use D5F, sorry, 3E7, and now I have this nice blue color here, and you can see, oh, it didn't change this one for some reason. There we go. And I can move my text around. I can make my text bigger, so I'm going to move around Arcadia here. Oops, I added a new one. Just kidding. I'm going to click on Arcadia here, and if I pull off to the side, I can see I can, you know, drag the text around. So I'm going to put this in a more central area. I'm going to change my text size here. Got to highlight first. Change my text size here so it's nice and big. And then just to add a little flair, I'm going to go up to these text options, and I'm going to create an arc style. It's a little bit distorted, so I'm going to reduce the bend so it's a little bit easier to read, but we still have a little bit of an arc. And now I have Arcadia, the name. I'm going to do the same thing with the C here. So I'm going to make it into an arc. I'm going to reduce the bend quite a bit. And I'm going to actually move this up so it's a little bit more centralized here. So I have Arcadia, the litmus C. I'm going to call this area over here Lufa. Just coming up with everyday object names here. And because it's a land mass, I'm going to use that 493F37 color. Change that, make it into an arc. Reduce the bend to about 10. See how that looks? Perfect. Move that up over here. And I could name, you know, all of these other places as well. But ultimately that is how you kind of decorate the map. You know, I could add more information on the seas and the oceans and, you know, these little islands. But that's how you make a fantasy map. This is great for projects that involve cardinal directions, having students name different geographical points, having students create a land that they might write a story about or that they might create a history for. So lots of really great uses for this type of structure in the classroom. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned a lot. Thanks.